Major funding for these broadcasts has been provided by grants from New York Community Bank, AmTrust Title Insurance Company, Perfect Building Maintenance, M&T Bank, Customers Bank, Marks Paneth LLP, Ariel Property Advisors, Sterling National Bank, Capital One Bank, Collins Building Services, Meridian Capital Group. Additional support has been provided by grants from AVR Realty Company, Amarant Bank, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, B6 Real Estate Advisors, Briarwood Organization, Chase Commercial Term Lending, Chase Commercial Mortgage, Citizens Bank, CPEX Real Estate Services, Douglaston Development Levine Builders, Flushing Bank, Friedman LLP, Handler Properties LLC, Handler Real Estate, Hodges Ward Elliott INC, Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Center at Syracuse University, Kilroy Architectural Windows, New York's Window Company, Matone Group, New Banks, Newmark Knight Frank, Optimum Window Manufacturing Corp., People's United Bank, Rockefeller Group, Rosewood Realty Services, SJP Properties, Stonehenge NYC, TD Bank, Terra CRG, the Merengoff Family Foundation, and these friends. What is the hospitality center of the world? It's New York City. And where people want to live, work, shop, and definitely visit New York. People coming from everywhere. So today I've assembled this group of hospitality experts to provide us an insight on where we see the hospitality in 2019. My guests include A.B. Hidary, who is the CEO of Hidrock Properties, Celeste Burgess, who's Vice President for Specialty Finance at M&T Bank, Ashish Lal, who's Director of Finance and Acquisitions at Fortuna Realty Group. And last but not least, my buddy from Philadelphia, Larry Corman, who is the President of AKA Hotels and the co-CEO of Corman Communities. So I was allegedly bringing you into the conversation. How many people came to New York last year?
2018, 65 million visitors came to New York City, 63 million the year prior, so another record-breaking year. The city continues to be the top visited city for international tourists in the U.S., and that's important because we all know that overseas visitors tend to stay longer and spend more money. So, tourism in the city, visitors in the city continue to feed the hospitality industry.
How many hotels do we have under development today in New York City? Any idea?
I usually count it by hotel rooms, not hotels.
Right.
And I think it's somewhere around 10,000 rooms that is still to be delivered.
So right now we have, what, about 110,000 rooms currently over there. Mm-hmm. Larry, you're a little hybrid, okay? Because you have the regular hotel rooms, which are daily, then you have 30 days and over, and then you have the service residential. Tell us about what AKA is doing and what you do in New York.
Well, service residents are a little unique to New York. They're condominiums, full condominium buildings with hotel services and resort amenities, and we manage the whole building. It's got condominium locations.
You have one in the city, Rich?
So we have 4 in Midtown at United Nations, Sutton Place, Times Square, and Central Park, 2 of which are service residences, 30 days and longer, and 2 of which are hotel residents, which are really focused on weekly and monthly. We have 2 new ones downtown, one in Tribeca, which is just about to open for Tribeca Film, and one at Wall Street. So 6 properties within New York City.
So what's the difference in the charge for someone who's going on a daily rate as opposed to a weekly rate and a monthly rate?
The value proposition is length of stay, so that if a comparable suite at the Plaza, Four Seasons, St. Regis was $995, it would be $695 based on a week and $295 based on a month stay.
And what type of services do they get?
We have cafes, lounge, they're all private, so there's a level of cachet and anonymity that you wouldn't get at other places.
So no one could walk into your cafe or the lounge?
They can walk into the cafe at Central Park. We do have that open. The restaurants at Wall Street are open to the public, but to go into the private portions of those restaurants, of those lounges with live music, is all private to and exclusive to the residents.
Hey, let's talk about what you're doing and what you've done over the years in the hospitality market.
So we focused on branded hotels, branded upscale. We build 2 courtyards, Spring Hill Suites by Marriott, and Embassy Suites by Hilton, and Cambria Suites by Choice. Our thought is that we want to cater to mostly the business traveler. The business traveler, they want to stay at branded hotels. They want to accumulate points. Those points they'll use maybe once a year or so to take their family on big resort vacations.
So you're saying the points are very big to people today in the hospitality industry.
What it also does is we have a good 30 to 50% of our reservations come through thebrand.com. Which means we don't have to use the online travel agencies as much, and therefore we're saving not only a big percentage of the business that otherwise would have to come through an OTA, but we're also paying a much lower fee because Marriott or Hilton or some of these others are able to negotiate lower rates from these OTAs.
Ashish, what's your involvement with the OTAs? And because you have independent hotels, you're basically independent branded.
Right, so we've taken a slightly different approach or different angle than AB's company. You know, we currently in New York City have a collection of independent boutique lifestyle hotels. So we've kind of pivoted away from the brands. You know, we rely on the OTAs, we rely on direct bookings, we rely on really curating our hotels to be a little bit more unique than some of the branded targeted hotels that people typically go to. And what I mean by that is, you know, for our hotels, we'll build, you know, we'll focus on design, you know, the look and feel of the hotel, so it's, you know, something that people can remember when they leave, but also we'll focus on their experience. And so what I mean by that is, you know, we'll have a nice restaurant that's chef driven. You know, some of our hotels, like in Long Island, our Garden City Hotel, we made a deal with David Burke. So, you know, it's a draw for people to come, a well-known chef, a well-known curated menu. In addition to that, we'll also have rooftops, both indoor and outdoor, so all year round. You know, it offers a dynamic place where people can come, get nice cocktails, have a nice, you know, sunset to enjoy, and then, you know, again, something to remember. So we've kind of pivoted to bring something more unique to the visitor.
I think you do that also in your space.
We're less beholden to the OTAs. I think because 77% of our stays are weekly and monthly, they want to talk directly. So we really have gotten less
Since I don't want to play inside baseball, I understand what OTA is. For my audience, who wants to say what it is?
Third-party providers like Expedia, Booking.com.
Online travel agencies.
Okay, and what do the online travel agencies traditionally take? 5%?
15 to 31%, depending on...
15 to 31%.
When we work with a Marriott or a Hilton, it's closer to that 15. When you're totally unbranded, and if you don't have a lot of scale, it's closer to that 30.
But it shouldn't always have a negative tone to the OTAs. And the reason I say is because, you know, when you first open up a hotel, right, they're a means to get exposure to a broader audience than what you would have to physically pay for, because we have independent websites. We have to pay for eyeballs to attract to those websites. So an OTA could be a means to get a larger brand for our brand exposure, at which point, once that customer comes to your hotel, you then can convert them. You get to know who that person is, you get to know their email address, get to know their contact, get to know what they like, and then it's incumbent on us as the hotelier to convert them for a direct booking. So it could be a means to an end.
Here's a question for the banker over here. How do you look at a branded, you know, like AB was talking about Embassy Suites, you know, Courtyard by Marriott, to a independent brand?
Our portfolio is pretty diversified. We have both branded, non-branded independent hotels. Our view is that in major gateway markets like New York, DC, a brand is absolutely necessary. In a market like New York, as AB said, a lot of corporate travelers who care about that loyalty program, who care about their points. So you can rely on the Marriott marketing system, so that's a plus there. But also in New York, you know, the name of the game now is you sometimes have to compete beyond price and service. You have to offer a product that's unique, and hence, you know, Ashish's Fortuna Realty's hotels that are more independent. Ashish mentioned, a lifestyle hotel. That's an often contemporary type of product that offers the attributes of a boutique hotel. Sometimes it's connected to a brand because the brands are seeing that those types of
I mean, for example, let's talk
cookie-cutter
about the
products.
Moxies, which has come up, which is a Marriott brand.
Yeah.
What is the Moxie?
So the Moxie is it's a micro hotel concept, so smaller rooms. So if you go to one of AB's hotels and Ashish's hotels or Larry's hotels, completely different target market, completely different room size. The focus of a Moxie, a Citizen M, or a pod is basically a person who's not going to spend a lot of time in their hotel rooms. They do best in urban markets like New York because you're out and about. They focus on common areas. They draw you from the room. You're spending most of your time in the common areas to socialize, go drink at the bar. They've got a whole Apple setup in what they call the living space. So a completely different target market, but it has gained a lot of momentum in major cities like New York. We've got a couple Moxies now and Citizen M's, opening up throughout the cities, throughout the U.S.
What about the hotel and the pods? What do you see?
I think it's at a price point as well
Absolutely.
to compete against Airbnb. So it's somebody, let's say millennial driven, that has a price point similar to that. They know what they're getting. There's a comfort level. There's an amenity, a lifestyle driven component different than a Airbnb.
The beautiful thing about having 65 million visitors come to this city is that there's all different types.
Diversity.
Right.
So the diversity is something that we all use to our advantage. And maybe Ashish is catering to one type and me to another and Larry to another, but you need something for everybody.
Okay, what about the boroughs? Okay, they built a couple of hotels in Williamsburg, which are doing exceptionally well, a couple of hotels in downtown Brooklyn that are doing well. How do you see the other 5 boroughs for hotels?
Sure. I think it depends which borough you're talking about. I think the proximity to New York City, especially, when you talk about the New York City market as a whole, right? Celeste made a good point that the market was rising this year versus previous years. But when you look at the year as a continuum, it's a matter of seasons, right? So during the compressed seasons of Q2, Q4, I think the outer boroughs, there's compression in the city, and so that compression has to go somewhere. They're either going to pay for a select service hotel $400 or $500 a night, or they're going to go to the outer boroughs and get some traction with price points there. So I think the outer boroughs will benefit from when there's compression in the city.
But in a similar manner, Larry let's say 8 years ago when Larry was on the show or something initially, he wouldn't have thought of Wall Street, okay? He might have thought of Tribeca, but he didn't think of Wall Street, okay? When AB was on the show, he was specifically concentrated, right near Macy's, 35th Street, 36th Street. That was the market.
I think
okay?
that Seaport's the best hidden secret in
Right.
New York.
I agree
It's
with
only
that.
going to get greater.
I agree with that.
Right.
My office is down the block from there.
It's a
and
home run
We're
there.
there all the time. It's unbelievable. You mentioned that we were around the Macy's area, Empire State Building. We did. We built 4 hotels around that neighborhood. But now we're focused downtown on Wall Street. The Wall Street market, just following up on what Ashish was saying, is that when you travel outside of New York, you travel for the hotel you're going to generally. When I say outside, I mean to resort areas. So you go into the Caribbean, you want to go to a hotel that has a whole bunch of amenities. But when you come to New York is the amenity. So it's not as necessary to have amenities built into your hotel for a lot of guests. Downtown Manhattan has so much going for it, both from a tourist standpoint with the Statue of Liberty and the World Trade Center.
And the Oculus.
And museums and the
museum,
Oculus.
yeah.
And at the same time, it has a ton of business activity. The World Trade Center site is many millions of square feet, and it's almost full, and there's more to be built.
If you eat outside at that Brookfield Place, you feel like you're in Venice. You could
Yeah.
be anywhere else in the world. So I think between Brookfield, what Marty Berger and Silverstein
But
has
the
done-
irony is that Brookfield has only one hotel. Okay, it's downtown, but it's a separate area. It's a different world over there. But what about Brooklyn?
So Brooklyn, to me, does not have that demand
Critical mass?
generator that's needed. If somebody wants to go visit Brooklyn, they'll stay in Manhattan, and then they could go visit Brooklyn for the day. But I don't see that demand generator there to have people want to stay in a hotel in Brooklyn. Of course, there's exceptions, and that's why there are hotels in Brooklyn, but I don't see that as an area of tremendous growth.
I agree.
It's the proximity factor. I think when you have compression in the city, I think it's just the proximity to the city, which benefits those outer boroughs versus the demand actual drivers for those areas.
As a lender, how do you look at the four other boroughs?
We have looked at deals in the boroughs before, but to Ashish's point, our focus is in New York City and Manhattan. The outer boroughs, there is a significant factor of that overflow demand that it relies on to fill the room nights. And that's why you're seeing most of the supply focused on Manhattan, every pocket of Manhattan, as opposed to Brooklyn. I think Williamsburg is a very unique submarket that's interesting there, but not a lot of supply, not a lot of opportunity for any sites there to begin with. But Long Island City was going to be interesting, but that's for now that ship has sailed.
But Long Island City probably currently has over 50 hotels.
Yep.
They have overflow, but they also have a certain quality hotel. I mean, you don't have any top hotels. You really have a standard hotel for the overflow of
Yes.
New York City. One hotel at Dumbo is probably beating the Brooklyn Marriott today. ADR, I believe, is close to $400 a
And
night.
the Brooklyn Marriott had a high ADR.
Right. It's such a unique facility that it's right down at the ferry stop. You can walk over the bridge. You have all of the amenities. It's seasoned right, and it's a perfectly sized hotel.
For a hotel to become a demand generator onto itself, you need to spend a lot of money on that hotel. That
Right.
hotel cost a lot to build.
Yep.
Speaking of that, you have a hotel in the Meadowlands. How do you look at that type of?
Meadowlands is a very exciting market. There is, besides the fact that there's always been a ton of business activity around there, and its proximity to Manhattan allows it to be also a compression market, but the American Dream Mall is finally opening. That was first
15 years.
With the ski slope?
Yes, it was
Wow.
maybe 10 to 15 years ago. It was conceived as
Conceived
Xanadu,
right.
and it's had a ton of negative press around it. But go there today, and it's a different world. Yes, there's going to be a ski slope, and it's going to be the largest mall, I believe, in the country.
It
In
also
about
has
6 months
another
from now.
interesting
That's great.
situation. Sports betting in New Jersey has really helped New Jersey for their business and everything. People are coming over. If we spoke a couple years about Airbnb, they were the enemy. Let's talk about Airbnb today.
From our perspective, we've always asked for a level playing field, that if we are 30 days in a residential zone, we would like the apartments and condos to be 30 days. With that said, our company has recognized that Airbnb has done a tremendous job of opening up the mindsets to a younger group in America to see the advantages of a residence versus a room. Before, service residents were understood by people in Asia and Europe, but not necessarily in America. So while there has been an impact, not necessarily to us, but hospitality in general over the last 6-7 years by the different rule sets, I think there are positives.
I brought up the fact that we have 110,000 rooms in New York City. If you take the Airbnb, that 110,000 could be over 350,000.
Larry's probably the only person who feels this way about Airbnb. I mean, the New York City hoteliers have been vehemently against Airbnb for that reason. There's too many hotel rooms, and it's not an even playing field.
No, I agree that it
right.
has not been.
So,
but I think it's going towards that direction.
So I think, though, in the last year, Airbnb has lost a tremendous amount of critical mass in New York City because of all the opposition from the hotel industry and just local New York City, residential.
I do believe that we can all
for it.
collaborate and work together, and I think there's something they offer, the data analytics, the marketplace. They've created this residential real estate, Google, that could supplant, let's say, the OTA business.
Airbnb has, and they've gone through their issues over the last couple of years. I mean, there's a reputational issue. The product is inconsistent. So, issues like that have continued to plague them.
The security issue of Airbnb is major. I mean, and when I go into some of these buildings, could be a 5-story walk-up in a variety of locations in the city, and I see a key, a lock over there with a key opening, I know that the apartments in the building are Airbnb. Okay? There's no protection. There's no coverage. There's safety. These 65 million visitors who come here want a little safety. That's very happy with the police force and so on. Right there, you have no control.
But that's why if the laws were consistently applied, there would be 30-day stays at condos and apartments that are residentially zoned. You'd have that apples to apples in the Big Apple comparison. So I do believe there should be that.
I think the Airbnb, they affect mostly the outer boroughs, those compression markets.
Right.
Because again, it's for a certain type of traveler, and those travelers are not typically staying in one of Larry's hotels or in a Marriott hotel because they want the brand, they want to know what to expect. So by creating those extra rooms, it hurts a few nights out of the year for the hotels that are a little more peripheral.
Yes,
So I was just going to say, in overall New York City market, it's a competitive market, right? So, we don't look as favorably on Airbnb because, again, it's not a level playing field. But New York City in general is a competitive market, right? So because we don't have the brand support and because we think we can tailor it differently, with our company itself, we have two verticals, right? We have a construction design element to it. So we build ground up, we renovate hotels, which I think is a competitive advantage for us because we can kind of tailor a hotel from a viewpoint of a customer to be a little bit more unique. And a second is also from a service element. We also manage our hotels. So given those two kind of strengths, I think that allows us to kind of pivot as we see different trends, as we see different design ideas, as we see different apps come up. Because I think technology, not just with Airbnb, but as a hotelier for a service component, using an app to go into your room. We can talk about check-in these days. A lot of the new hotels are getting rid of kind of the traditional front desk,
Right.
but instead having your app to check in. So I think overall, the New York City market is competitive, so it's incumbent on the hotelier, whether you're a brand or independent, to kind of think outside the box and kind of utilize what you have, from a design element as well as a management element to kind of compete with whoever is out there.
So if I asked all of you, what are the biggest opportunities in the hospitality industry and what are the biggest challenges, what would you say?
I would say the biggest opportunity is to really spread your wings and go full forward with what you think your brand identity is and not let it be diluted.
Right,
and
I
really
mean,
stand out for
AKA has a
something
brand
specific.
identity. You have a brand identity here and you have brand identity around the world, okay? And people know when they're going to AKA or if they're going to a Marriott, that's the brand identity. What do you see as the greatest opportunities in
I think
challenges?
for us, what we look at opportunistic wise is going into either a hotel or portfolio that we can add some value somehow. Either it's not been touched and renovated in a while, or the costs are too high, and we can add some sort of, our touch in there to kind of improve it. I think that's kind of the biggest opportunity is we need flexibility. So we won't go into a certain situation where maybe a brand is in there for another 10, 20 years, or it's encumbered by a CMBS loan for another 5, 10 years because there's a defeasance. So we're opportunistic, and we think there's opportunities where there's an asset that's flexible because we want to be flexible. That's why we do a lot of loans with M&T. They're a balance sheet lender, they're a relationship lender. There's a warm body we can talk to because, again, the market's great right now, but who knows in 5, 7, 10 years? And we need that flexibility for when it comes down to talk to somebody, talk to a Celeste, talk to a person that can allow us to have that flexibility to kind of navigate those times.
In addition to what A.B. and Larry were talking about, the Wall Street area market, where do you see an opportunity in the Hudson Yards today for hotels? Because in essence, there aren't really too many hotels. There are a couple of hotels, and you have the convention.
They have to create more of a neighborhood feeling. Right now, it's just a monolithic giant. I think Brookfield's doing a much better job of creating more of a neighborhood. I think it's an opportunity, but I do think there should be more hotels.
Most of the new supply that has come into New York City has been in that Midtown West, Midtown South, in anticipation of Hudson Yards.
The 8th and 9th Avenue.
That's right, in anticipation of Hudson Yards. So I think as Hudson Yards, fills those room nights, then down the road, but in anticipation of Hudson Yards coming online, there has been a lot of supply in that market. In terms of opportunities, I think travelers' tastes are always changing. So, brands continue to create more brands to kind of capitalize on changing travelers' tastes.
How do you see the opportunities in like Inwood, Washington Heights, Harlem?
At this point in time, I think our focus right now, continues to be in Manhattan. It's hard to generalize because we will consider different deals for different sponsors. We like thinking outside of the box for the right sponsorship team. So I think that's one of the things that differentiates M&T from the market is our ability to do that. And that sets us apart from our competition. And as a result, we work with some of the best in class, hotel owner operators in the market. So it's hard to generalize, but those markets, as Ashish and everyone has said, they rely a lot on compression nights, overflow demand. But for, we're willing to look at
I mean,
most projects.
a number of years ago, people were very cautious about the Lower East Side. Lower East Side, the neighborhood has changed. It's become very hip. Same thing on Tribeca. Tribeca had a limited number of hotels. Now the demand, especially the Tribeca Film Festival and other things, have created. Harlem lived with one hotel. Now there are going to be 3 hotels. Staten Island, okay, they built the Hilton Garden Inn and they're building another hotel. But there's a critical mass. People aren't schlepping to Staten Island.
I think one of the things that make hotels successful, one of the most important things, is location. And there's never been a better time than to buy middle of the CBD, right down the fairway, and not take a risk on a secondary market. A lot of developers in New York City right now are struggling because a lot of them built condominiums. And the condominium market has been really slow for a couple of years now. So these developers are on the sidelines. So any land that is for sale is seeing much fewer bids, much less competition, and pricing is lower. So Hidrock's opinion is that now's a very good time to buy land in great locations because the pricing's a little bit lower now than it was a couple of years ago.
What about opportunity zones and the hospitality industry? Any thoughts?
I'm not a fan.
Our opportunity zone would be Upper East Side.
Okay. No, okay. But I was specifically talking about the opportunity zones, which people don't realize that they have to keep their money in there for 10 years. It's a long-term situation, and it's not for everybody, okay? And you have to deal with the right people.
And you have to believe that the deal you invest in is going to perform better than leaving your money in the stock market or other capital gains that you may otherwise want to take.
And you're illiquid over there, no question.
Right.
I'd like to thank A.B., Celeste, Ashish, and Larry, and I'll see you next week.